Hello friends, this is Odds. I will swear it on the Constitution if I am asked by a judge. And today, me and my good friend Cope are going to do a very unusual tier list. It's going to be a tier list of toxicity and how bad certain behaviors are in the context of Dead by Daylight and beyond. Cope, how are we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't wait for this lovely topic that everyone has such a strong opinion on.
Oh, damn right. So are we ready to talk about these highly criminal activities?
Absolutely.
Shall we start with the most like blatantly illegal of all of them, teabagging? I mean, we agree on this one, right?
Oh yeah, that's got to be illegal. You go to prison for that.
I know, for real though. We know sometimes people teabag to communicate with other survivors, sometimes to just poke fun at the killer, sometimes just to be a bit of an ass. Like, at its worst, how bad is this? Would you say that it's completely fine? It's good for the game. It's just not nice, but we shouldn't really do anything about it. Like, well, what are your thoughts?
So teabagging to me is an interesting one that I'm surprised a lot of people are bothered by because it's been in multiplayer games for years and years and years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for teabagging to be an issue in Dead by Daylight, it's always strange to me. And I know plenty of people that do it and they don't do it in a malicious way. They're not making fun of the killer. They're not making fun of their teammates. They're just pressing control just because it's fun to do that. Or it's even like you mentioned, it's communication because there's not much communication in Dead by Daylight, right?
Right. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty okay with teabagging. It doesn't get under my skin very often. It only sometimes bothers me if that person that teabags me has done everything else. You know, if they are annoying in every possible way, or they do something really stupid, and then at the end they teabag me, I'm like, really, dude, really. So I would say it's not nice. Would you say it falls under the not nice, or would you put it on fine?
To be completely honest, I would put it on. Okay, here's the thing also. I think teabagging can be bad manners. I do. But would I call it like toxic per se? Not even close.
Oh, where does it fall then?
I personally am fine with it. I don't even see it as not nice. I got teabagged the other night playing offline, and it's just like, whatever, okay.
All right. I'll let you, I'm leaning between fine and not nice. I'll lean with you. We place it on nice. Now, obviously anything to do with doxing, DDosing, IRL, death threats, anything that has to do with like harassment outside of the game, that one's very simple. That's like downright illegal. There's no debate to be had. Like, if you do that kind of stuff, it's the police that should be handling it. Yada, yada, yada. But sometimes people don't take it that far, and they will simply complain in either the post-game chat, which is a classic, or the Twitch chat of whatever streamer they played against. Let's talk about the post-game chat. How okay are you with, I guess, people just complaining and just being like, well, that's a really unfun build. Well, that's okay. Well, you should stop playing and you should uninstall, and general BMing. Obviously, death threats and so on. That's beyond the scope. Yeah.
So, chat complaints in general to me. I actually have my post-game chat turned off and pre-game chat turned off as well. I would say chat complaints can go as far from not nice to completely illegal because of the things they can say to you. And I think
that is true.
I think it can be one of the worst things ever. Like, for example, let's say we play against each other. We don't know each other, and I'm the toxic one, right?
Yeah.
I get very angry because you played against me and I didn't escape, and I'm really mad. And I just go immediately to post-game chat like, I hope your dog gets run over. And
that happens surprisingly often, by the way. It's
sad. It's absolutely sad, and there's no place for that. And that to me is
like, assuming that it's not, that it doesn't cross the line of like straight up harassment or discrimination or TOS. Would you say, like, obviously that would place it straight up in bannable, right? Like that should be straight up if you do something like that. But assuming that you just fall short of that line of like what is actually bannable, would you say that this is just not nice, or would you say it's more on the offensive side of things?
I would go with not nice at that point. Or I think you're referring to things like, oh, you're just a trash player.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
blah,
precisely.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you're like, wow, nurse with those perks, and you had to slug, blah blah blah. I would say, what would you say?
I would say this. I'd say it's not nice, offensive, things like that. They don't bother me. I know they bother a lot of the other players in the community, though, and I do acknowledge that.
All right. Now, I think the next one does infringe on the borderline offensive, and that is if you do the exact same thing, but you make you make those complaints not in the inside game option, but rather you go out of your way to go into that person's profile or their chat or their DMs. Would you agree that doing that is on the offensive category, even if it's not something that's probably bannable in game 4?
Oh boy, Twitch ranting. Yes, offensive, if not bannable, like you said. Unfortunately, I've had plenty of people in Soviet. They've come into the chat and they're just like, they just say anything they want. And it's not only that it's directed at a single person like the streamer, but because their negativity comes into a Twitch chat, it's obvious that it causes like a storm kind of in the
it
Twitch
spirals
chat.
down. And sometimes the newer or smaller the community, the more power a person or two have. I've sometimes seems like a group of 2 or 3 survivors, it can be the killer of course too, that they go into a small stream and they start to like just paste a wall of text just berating the killer for playing the game.
I think it's even borderline bullying at that point.
Yeah, it's really not nice. In the context of streaming, we have stream sniping. How bad is stream sniping? Now, obviously, we know that some folks use like third-party software and cheats to snipe, and we'll get to that when we get to cheating. But just sniping, just your streamer, your favorite streamer or least favorite streamer, they're about to play, and you queue up at the same time to get into their game without their consent, oftentimes against their wishes. How do we like that?
I don't have an issue with stream sniping. However, I have an issue with people wanting attention to the point where they're like stealing the show in a way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. You mean things like, I don't know, they'll hit you on the hook and they'll nod and they'll do all these things because they know you're streaming and they just want to have their moment.
Exactly. I think it's fine to stream snipe. However, I would prefer if people are subtle about it. Like, hey, you're against so-and-so. Just play the game.
One thing I've learned definitely is that there's ways and ways to snipe. Sometimes you get into a lobby of a streamer and you recognize them because they have a certain charm or a certain skin, and that's completely fine. There's also people that just really go out of their way to get into people's lobbies and, you know, mess with whatever plans they had, and those people I find very gross. I don't think it's something that should be bannable, both on Twitch or in game.
But you are bothered by it.
I am bothered by it. Especially, like, obviously it's happened to me to a point where I'm like, you know, like I will open a profile of a dude and his name will be Stream Sniper. Like literally, I'm a stream sniper. He has a link to his YouTube. You open his YouTube. Hey, it's me, you know, Ryan, the sniper. And it's like, okay, he's a stream sniper. He's admitting it. And then people will have to be convinced, like, maybe he wasn't sniping. Dude, he is a sniper. I've seen him 20 times in the past 2 days.
Yes, there are people literally motivated to do that every single time. I've seen Steam profiles with like list of streamers I've killed or escaped against.
It's very bizarre, especially when you're like, you know, like, oh, I'm doing a subathon, or oh, I'm doing some kind of challenge, I'm doing my thing, and people will be like, nope, it's about me now, and will slug you on the ground for 4 minutes or do whatever. Yep. I find that really, really sad. I've also heard from all kinds of streamers like, oh yeah, I got slugged on the ground for 4 minutes because he hates streamers. That's to me, that's so bizarre. It's like saying, oh, I hate musicians. Like what does it mean to hate streamers? There's so many of them. They're all different people.
I think it's I just think it's the want for attention, and that's pretty much it. I'm in front of hundreds of viewers, thousands of viewers. I want everybody's attention. Say this about me. I'm going to clip this. Yada, yada, yada. Things like that.
Do we agree that it's not something that should be bannable, or do you think it should be bannable? Like that kind of behavior? Because it's obviously hard to prove, and sometimes, as we said, it can be accidental. I'm not sure it should be bannable. It probably shouldn't be. But I do think it on the rank of offensive and probably not so nice.
I would go with not nice or offensive. But if I really had to choose one for stream sniping, I would take not nice. I would.
Well, last time we went with yours, so this time we're gonna go with mine. Next time if we tie, you'll be the one to pick.
Hey, you're the captain.
Other things that have to do with I guess everything to do with lobbies and matchmaking. Dodging lobbies. Especially as a killer, you have the ability to scout what 2 hours are running, right? And sometimes you'll be like, oh, I'm playing Hag, I have a daily, I don't want to go against 4 flashlights. And sometimes you will be like, oh, these guys have a lot of hours. Like, it can be anything, really. Like, people can dodge because they see an item they don't like, because they see a person they don't like, sometimes more or less legitimate reason, just to, wait until they have someone with less hours so they can have an easier game. How do we feel about that? Where would you place it on a quick whim?
So before I do that, and I'll try to be brief about it, I want to attack that from a few different angles. I think dodging lobbies is bad for, or rather it can be good for streamers, because I'll give you an example. I've dodged a lobby where the survivors have used a map offering and they're like, Copa's playing Billy, I'm taking him to Larry's. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm totally good on that. Yeah. So I just don't feel like it. I'm not in the mood and I just leave.
I actually know a streamer that had exactly that experience. They know a person that always, and I mean always, brings Badham and Eerie offerings. So they recognize the person, and instead of dodging the lobby, they use like a green offering, a map canceling word. And then when they loaded in, that person DC'd because they didn't play in their map. So
is it sad that I'm that person sometimes? I'll disconnect during a map offering.
Well,
I'm being honest.
Do you think that it's something that's like, I do agree, by the way, it's really nice to dodge people that you know are going to be toxic. Although I will admit, as a killer, it feels a bit wrong that if I want to, I could go and, if it's on Steam, I could go and creep on people's profile. It is very weird that I could be playing a strong killer, open every person's profile and see, oh, you only have 500 hours. All right, well, I know who I'm going to focus on, I feel like that's a bit weird. If that wasn't so much a thing, I think dodging could be fine or good or whatever. As it is right now, I almost want to say it's not nice, but would you say it's fine?
I would absolutely say it's fine, because even though we've not gotten to it, there are certain other things that you do want to dodge when it comes to the lobbies.
All right, that's totally fair. Now, talking about things you might want to dodge, bully squads. And we use the term bully very loosely here. A bully squad, by our definition, is going to be a group of players who are typically pretty good, or at least think they're pretty good. And they're going to play in a way that just results in the killer probably being caught in some kind of loop of like being stunned, blinded, and hurt emotionally in a number of ways. But it's almost never the most efficient way to play. Like, these people will often make clips and all die 3 gens left. So it's not like the best way to play to win, but it's rather the best way to play for, for fun YouTube clips or silly moments like that. So that's the definition of a quote-unquote bully squad. What's your take on these folks?
Oddly enough, I'm not bothered by them. However, there is something I will point out. A lot of these bully squads, if they don't get the plays that you just mentioned, like the flashlight saves or the techs or whatever, many of them, well, not many of them, some of them get a little upset. They disconnect. They just stop playing the game.
That is true. And I don't really care for that at all. They go around, they get a killer that they can quote unquote abuse a little bit, and they're all for it. But the moment that the killer puts up a bit of resistance, and maybe you and I are not so bothered because we have 1 million hours in the game, right? But the moment the killer knows a bit what they're doing, they cut the crap really quick and often like quit or give up or kill themselves on hook. So I would lean to say that even though it's fun to do silly things like that, I don't love it when survivors like do that and abuse newer players and stun them a million times.
Let me ask you what you think the experience is for an average player that's not 9,000 hours or what have you.
I know that because you see it in comments, and I see some of my old videos, right, where survivors like back then had other tools, mind you, and I was newer and I was like learning like what am I getting hit on left, right, like what are all these perks? It is very overwhelming. It also feels personal. I remember playing against a streamer when I was not so good, who was very much like this, right? Throw in, doing all kinds of silly things. And from their point of view, they were just having fun. From my point of view, I'm like, dude, I'm being attacked. Like these people are just trying everything to make me the most miserable possible. And that is part inside your head. That's partly the fault of the person playing killer, who has to not take it literally and still learn a few tricks. But still, it does feel bad. I would lean to say that these are not nice, especially when they overdo it. Definitely, you know, the definition is very wide. But would you say they're fine, worse, they're good for the game? What's your stance? Where would you...
At the end of the day, let's use like a 4-man as an example for the sake of conversation. I see it as 4 people playing together and they're friends and they're just trying to have a good time. They're just trying to do fun stuff for themselves. And I can't hate on something like that. That's how I see it at the end of the day. However, if we just use the terms like the bully squad as it is, and picking on like a 20-hour person for like 20 minutes in the game, and like you're just messing with them over and over and over again, I can see it as being not nice.
It doesn't even need to be that extreme. You can have 200 hours and not have played killer a lot. And some of the tricks that people will do, you know, like they are a bit unpleasant for people that are still learning. So
exactly.
Would we agree that it's maybe leaning on not nice?
I think that's a fine category. I do.
Okay. Now, cheating. We know that cheating is definitely not very nice. It's a bannable offense. If you cheat in a way that gives you advantage, blah, blah, blah. We all know what it's like. The only question is, do you think it's something that should be bannable? Slap on the wrist, get banned? Or should it be something that have like IRL, like actual repercussions? Do you think people that cheat should be in trouble beyond the scope of the game?
It's cheating in a video game. I think you just ban them and they'll just make another account. But, you know.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do. I do agree, although I personally, if it was up to me, the people making the cheats and distributing them, for all I care, sue their butts into oblivion.
That's fair.
Now, something that also gives an advantage, but it's not an outright cheat, are exploits. Exploits are typically whatever bug is going around that gives you an advantage. And yeah, sometimes it's just something small for just a second. Sometimes it's something quite game-changing that requires a big patch. And people will use it more or less. I don't know about you, but over the years I've seen many people that find like one spot where they can be hooked and they run there constantly. Like they take advantage of little things like that. For someone that uses these purposefully, not like once by accident, not like 3 seconds, but purposefully, what should be the verdict?
Oh boy. Okay, exploits. I think you remember this bug probably. Breakdown, I believe. Was it Breakdown?
Oh yeah, was it the one? Yeah, go ahead.
Hooks were permanently sabotaged. I really think it's Breakdown. So I went against a squad. Yep, it was. I went against like a 3-man squad, and they would get hooked on purpose and break all the hooks around and get, you know, the perma sabo in the corners of the map, and they would get slugged on purpose and just sit there. And it's just like, well,
what am I meant to do?
Yeah, I just like opened the door and left. It was one of the most boring games I've ever played.
I'm very surprised just how quickly and willing people are to abuse these things. I've had many instances where a person goes down, maybe accidentally, on a spot where I can't pick them up, and I will show them like, please move. Like I will try to use my non-verbal killer movement, like please move. And I've almost never seen someone do it. And I think to myself, if I was in their spot, I would be pissed that I went down to the killer. Maybe I would be here for like a second just to make sure what's going on. But like after a little while, surely I would let the killer have me. It's kind of scummy, right? I think this is at the very least definitely offensive. And personally, if it was up to me, people that repeatedly take advantage of this could have at least temporary bans. Are you on a similar level of thought, or?
I fully agree with you.
All right, wonderful.
Easiest agree ever.
Now, let's compare that to something else that some people think also should be bannable. Deranking your MMR. Now, I've only heard of one streamer who has admitted to doing this, and it was quite a baroque, like weird story. And I don't think there's that many people that do it, but people speculate about this a lot, about people out there that just, I guess, lose on purpose, or maybe even make new accounts like often just to play against people that are clearly like less experienced than them. Can this ever be okay? Is this just the worst thing in the world? What do you think?
I personally think it's not nice to the level of being a bully squad, if that makes sense. If you're deranking your MMR, clearly you want to go against newer players, or you want more fun games, you know, less challenging equals fun sometimes, right? I don't have like a strong opinion on it, but at the same time, I don't like newer players going up against things that they'll practically never understand, right? They have no chance to understand it.
The thing about MMR being deranked is, as far as I know, it's very inefficient. Like if you're a killer that has hit the cap, you would need to lose a lot of games in a row, like a lot, and then stay off down MMR. You would also need to lose, so you would have to play like you'd have to lose like maybe 30 or 40 games, like straight up lose them, and then every time you get a win, you would need to lose it again. So, like, at least it seems like doing this should be difficult, and that's maybe why you don't see a lot of people do it. And the fact that MMR is invisible, I also think helps, because people don't know how much they can or cannot do this.
It also feels slightly inconsistent, or maybe that's just me. I don't know. There's a part of me that just like doesn't believe in MMR sometimes.
I think that has to do more with the fact that it's so wide, that the barrier of entry is so low. You can be at the highest MMR by being the best player, or being just a little bit better than the average. So I understand that. And you're not alone, by the way. I've heard other streamers that lately are like, my games are getting easier, or people are just, or my matches are very up and down. So yeah. All right. Which of the next ones do you want to tackle? I've been going on my own initiative here, but
how about filters and config?
Alright, so let's explain that. If you play DVD on console, you don't have access to this, really. But if you play it on PC, there are some things you can do to make your game run and look a little bit nicer. The simplest ones, which for instance, I do myself, is just turn up your brightness, obviously. You can also play at higher FPS. Many streamers do it. I personally do it. It makes the gameplay nicer. But beyond that, there's other things you can do, like having filters that filter out certain colors, so it's easier to see the red stains. Like, there's no longer as big of an advantage that comes from this compared to before with like stretch res, which would allow people to see over obstacles and stuff. That's gone. But would you say that this is still an issue, or a major issue? What are your thoughts?
Previously, what you just said, stretched res was a big thing on like Twitter and just like anywhere constantly. People using things like filters in general. It's weird, isn't it? Because if you can't see the game that well, using a filter, to me anyways, is like not the worst thing in the world. Like, I can't see. I would like to up my brightness. Right. Not so much to see the killer's red stain, but because my eyes are like being bothered, because I can barely play the game without reshade.
Yeah, no, but it is, if you think about it, I think it's partially like to be blamed by the game itself. I think it's very unfair that if I play on PC and I have a nice, or even not so nice PC, I can play on a nice, even FPS and I can hit my great skill checks very smoothly at 120 or whatever FPS I play at, right? Meanwhile, if you're on console, you don't have the same luxury. You know, you go to a dark map and you're like, here's one thing I've been told that blew my mind. When I play Dredge and I go into Nightfall, if a survivor that I play against is on console and they have a big TV and it's daytime, the resolution that, like, the image quality that they have during nighttime, during Nightfall, makes it really difficult for them to see with the sun reflections on their screen because it goes black. So, and that blew my mind because I never thought about that. Like, whatever happens on my screen, you know, I do have some lights on my room and stuff, but for the most part, I see it almost perfectly. So you could argue that this is either an unfair advantage for the PC players or just an unfair disadvantage for the console folks. Where do you sit on this?
Wow. I have to defer that to you. I'm not even sure. It's,
you know what? I'll tell you that much. I don't think it should have been bannable, but previous stretch resolution probably was on this tier of being offensive and not nice and probably hurting the game.
If you have the advantage, yes, and at the same time, I think it can be fine if you're just a normal person that is struggling with visuals, and that's it, you know.
Yeah, I don't think. Do you think it would be fair? Like, if Behavior tomorrow came out and said, "Okay, Cole, you're gonna play the game at 60 FPS." You wanted to play 100? No, 60. Do you think that would be nice? Because I would hate that. Like, that would feel like, just so that you are on the same footing as consoles, which is unfortunate, right? That you have to be at like 30, 60 FPS when your computer can run it better. I personally, I would hate it. It would be fair, but it would be fair in the wrong way because it should be console that gets more performance.
I would be fine.
Yeah. You would be fine playing at 60?
I would, yeah.
You are a braver man than I am. Would you say that filters in the state they are right now are fine or just not nice?
If they're not being used as an advantage, I think they're totally fine. I even have my NVIDIA filter up rarely, but sometimes I just can't see on a certain map. Like
as far as I can tell, there's not too much of an advantage. I haven't seen any comp player right now whose game looks so different that it's like, wow, it's so much easier. Though I do feel like if you are able to individually tinker with the configuration files, there might be some advantage to be had there. Because you could have the game play at lower quality so that you can see through grass better and see trappers' traps, but you could keep the shadows on high so that you can see movement better. Like, I think some of that honestly should be addressed, even though it's probably fine right now and it doesn't make a huge difference. But that's an interesting one. Would you also like to take?
That sounds like so much work for someone to just play the game.
Well, you'd be surprised, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
How about how are you feeling? How are you feeling about anti-fun perks?
All right. Some people will make a huge deal about this. They are like, my only joy in life is playing with a flashlight. I don't want to play the sweatiest items. I don't want to play the sweatiest perks. I just want to have like some cool clips or some cool gameplay elements, right? Why does the killer run Franklin's? Why does the killer run Liveborn? That's like directly countering one thing that's not even optimal. So I understand their point of view. And then from the killer side, it's more like, haha, they can't do anything. Haha, I have the perk. Haha, they're trying to blind me. You know, and I also understand that. I think it's hilarious. So I personally think that they're fine. I'm not sure they are good for the game. I think they might be because they create a bit of like options. It's like, you don't like flashlights? You have one perk if you want to dedicate it to. Like they might even be good in that regard. Maybe you disagree, but at the very least, I think they're fine. What are your thoughts? Do you think they're actually bad for the game, or?
I think they're either fine or good as well. A perk like Franklin's Demise or Lightborn, again, like you said, they're just doing a very specific niche thing. You can't be blinded. You can basic attack items out, and well, that's it. Is it unfun for people? Yeah, I can totally understand as well. They lose their flashlights, and previously, like, good times, they would lose their key and stuff like that. They would get really mad.
Right.
But I don't have any issues with it. I really don't. I did back then when I was entitled, but not anymore.
Are you reformed now?
I am reformed completely.
All right, talking about things that need to be reformed. How do we feel about full face camping? Like we're not talking like camping for a little bit. We're talking like fully committing to staying maybe a minute or two in front of a person, knowing that your power or your character guarantees that they're not gonna get out. And more often than not, it's not at the end of the game, it's like at the start. Like we're not talking like situational camping. That's fine, we understand that's part of the game. But full commitment to face camping. How do we feel about that?
I think it's good.
What? You think it's good?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wait,
I think it's good. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. I know people take the game more seriously than other players, and they want to win, right? How do you win? By getting an early kill. That's very helpful to get an early kill. Or like forcing, let's say, struggle phase.
Are you 200 IQ in this because you want more people to camp because you're running reassurance and deliverance and whatever?
No.
Are you reverse psychologying the audience here?
No, I think it's hilarious whenever a camp happens to me. Now, however, when it happens to another person, I think it sucks for them. I do. So, okay, if I meet in the middle of that, I think it's fine then.
All right, so Cope would place it as fine. And okay, I'm a bit conflicted. On the one hand, camping killers have given us such beautiful content over the years.
Yes.
Like it's like you just put that in the thumbnail. It's like, I got camped for doing this. Billion views. I get that. Okay? I know that we owe campers a lot.
Yes.
But that being said, it just doesn't sit right with me that there are some situations, some characters, blah, 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 where if you just sit there and do nothing, the best gameplay from both sides is to just, sit there and on the other side, sit on gens. I find it appalling. I think that this is something like, it should be like hatch standoffs. You remember how back in the day, if a hatch opened and the killer and the survivor reached it at the same time, there was no winning. If the killer hit the survivor, they went in. If the survivor jumped in, the killer grabbed them. So it was a standoff. You stayed there 1 hour.
Right.
That got patched out, and everyone was like, "Phew! Thank goodness. Now we can, improve that." To me, the fact that there are still situations where it is a good or even optimal idea for the killer to just sit in front of someone for a minute or two is an abomination. I think it's a huge mistake, and I wouldn't call it offensive, but I would say it's not nice.
You could also argue that there are perks that would help alleviate such a thing too, though. Like, obviously, faster unhooking, or
yeah, I mean, in a way, we have that right now. We have reassurance, right? Reassurance gives us a plus 30 seconds. If multiple people have it, it can be triggered a couple times. In a person's lifespan on the hook. So you can make camping, you can 100% make camping not time effective with such perks, camaraderie, right? But it doesn't change the fact that if a person goes on the hook and a killer just, goes AFK, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, it might take 3 minutes, sure, for that person to, but there's nothing you can do. Like, how silly is it that, maybe your cannibal killer accidentally drops his controller and spills his tea and he's busy cleaning it up, and then everyone looks at him and they go, "Wow, he's such a smart player, he's doing a tactical camp. That's such a, oh my god, how did we fall for this? It's so obvious that he was gonna do this." That to me just baffles me. It baffles me that we're still in this territory like 6 years into the game. So I think you could argue, okay, this is the game's fault and it's not the camper's fault. But at the same time, you are robbing yourself of a game that could be more fun. Not always. Obviously, if you camp endgame, the game's over. But sometimes you're robbing yourself of a game that is fun, and you're robbing that person of a game that could be fun. So I think it's just not nice. I wouldn't full face camp people.
I will meet you on not nice if you can meet me on this kind of scenario. Like you just said, let's say it's the end of the game and the killer has
yeah, no, that's totally fine. Like when I say full face camp here, like this, I'm not saying
from start to finish.
Yeah. I'm not talking about like, oh well, I tried to win, I didn't win, I camped one guy at the end. That's completely understandable. I think we're on the same page. Everyone is. I don't know a single person other than the most entitled people ever that thinks that, you know, you should just give free escapes at the end of the game. Of course, that makes sense. Yeah. So would we then settle for not nice? Shake on it?
Yeah, because I think you're not giving like the most interesting game to the survivors or to yourself. Like you said, there's a lot more that can happen. You never know, and I feel like that's just giving up.
Okay, let's continue in the trend of naughty killer gameplay. How do we feel about hard tunneling? And for our definition, hard tunneling will be like straight up hook one guy, hook the same guy if possible. Like not like, oh, I did my best and I hooked, oh, it was an accident. No, I mean like purposeful, ignore everyone else, just get a person out of the game like they do in tournaments. What do you think about this?
I am fine with it happening to myself again, but to a teammate, I really dislike it. I would say it's not so nice because I do care about my teammates to the point where, you know, I want them to have a decent experience too, at the very least.
Yeah.
And if they're just being tunneled out of the game, then
like
I don't know. I feel like slightly guilty.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it's literally not your fault. It's just what the person is choosing to do to another player.
Like one thing that blows my mind is when you look at like competitive Dead by Daylight, tunneling is literally the objective. Like a nurse, who's a perfectly good killer, will typically try to tunnel a person out. And then the team's effort is not doing gens, like that happens in the background. The team's effort, the real objective of survivors is protect the tunnel person, use anti-tunneling perks, use altruistic perks here and there to delay that until we do gens and maybe get out. Right. And that is okay. You can ask that from comp players and players on comps, but asking that from solo players is just cruel. I can tunnel a person as a killer, and if it's a good team, by the time that person is about to die, I will have, you know, the G.I. Joe squad show up. Like, I will have the Power Rangers literally rain on me and prevent that tunnel. And that's their job. And whether or not I make it, it's fine, right? But if they're all solo players, what are they supposed to do? How are they going to protect, you know? So I do lean in that it's fine because the game allows you to, but it's also not nice because for certain players and certain teams, doing that is such a heartbreak. It's such a heartbreak, and they are so ill-equipped to deal with it.
Well, I'd like to ask you a question then. Include yourself in that conversation. What if it's you?
Okay, I'm the killer, now, right?
Yes, how do you feel?
Okay, here's how I feel, right? It has to be pretty much after the fact. If after the fact, I find out or I understand that I played against a team that was just an average team, not trying too hard, maybe not all of them were on comms, I will feel bad. If I get 3 hooks and 1 kill, I'm gonna feel awful. If I do that against a comp team in like a scrimmage, or if I do that against survivors that I know are good or that I know had a ton of resources and they just used them poorly, right? They could have played it better and they just failed to do that, then I don't feel so bad. I think it's, you know, name of the game, whatever. And it also has to do a little bit with your killer, because if you tunnel someone with Blight, best add-ons, it's very difficult for them to counterplay them. If I somehow tunnel a dude with Wraith, well, it's a little bit their fault because it's a lot easier to body block. So it definitely depends of what killer I'm playing and what situation I think the team is in. Sometimes I will feel bad. Not like bad as in, oh my god, ban me from the game, but bad as in, okay, that wasn't nice.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think not nice is a pretty good spot for it then.
Okay, what do we tackle next?
How about denying achievements?
I think this one should be illegal. I think this is one of the worst things you can do in Dead by Daylight. So
you're being sarcastic, right?
I'm being sarcastic, but not really. Like I do think like legally it's not illegal. Morally, I think it's one of the most despicable things you can do. So there are some achievements and archives and things that you need to do in Dead by Daylight, right? And some of them are obvious enough for the other side to sometimes notice it. And sometimes it depends on the other side whether or not you get it. So there are situations where certain players can do certain things to completely make it impossible for you to get that achievement and make you try all over again. What are some examples? For instance, if you notice that a killer or a survivor, mostly a killer, is doing the Adept by only running their 3 perks, you could DC and they're not going to get Adept anymore. Oops. If you notice that it's a Myers doing the very difficult Evil Incarnate achievement and he's killed 3 of your teammates, you could go into a locker like the picture shows and just sit there for 5 billion years until the end of the universe and he will not get it and he'll have to just hook you. And you don't even gain anything. Like, that's the thing. Like, the thing about denying achievements is that you don't gain anything from it. You just do it out of pettiness so that the other side is tilted. And to me, that is just, it's just awful. Like, when you have nothing to gain, but you just do something to irritate the other side at no gain for you or your team, I think it's the worst thing. What do you think?
I would go not nice or offensive as well. And I've denied plenty of people, even Evil Incarnate, by the way. I've done that. Like, in the past. I don't do that anymore. If I die, I die. And
like, obviously, if you're the first person, like, sure. I just think it's kind of silly. Like, if you're the last person just to sit in a locker forever, I do think it's... so should we land it on offensive then?
I think...
Or maybe
or not nice. Or not nice. Maybe not nice, honestly. Maybe I would. That also extends, by the way, to challenges, you know, through the Rift as well. The
Rift, yeah. You see a survivor at the end of the game. They're about to die. They're the last left. They're picking up a Rift. And instead of letting them finish it, you just down them and hook them. Like, that to me, that's being...
I can give you a personal example. I was playing as Trapper for my 4 basement sacrifices for a challenge.
Okay.
And I killed 3 of them. Did not camp or anything like that, but you know.
Oh no.
I'm the bad guy.
Last one DC'd?
The Meg, the last survivor's a Meg. She gets trapped by the basement. And I pick her up and she disconnects. And she says in the post-game chat, "Nope, not getting your challenge." I just thought, wow.
That is... Oh, really? That's not nice? You don't think that's offensive?
Okay, yeah.
That is offensive, dude. All right, I'll do it. Okay, now, want to pick one of the wonderful sins we have left?
How are you feeling about Tex?
I think I think this is going to be the only one that I'll place right here. I think Tex are good for the game. And I think people doing them are saints as far as I'm concerned. And I say that as someone who probably at some point, and I remember at least one example, has been hit by like a bunch of different texts and so like, what is going on? What is going on? Like the thing about bully squads that we talked about before is that if you go against a bully squad that has 10,000 hours each, there's nothing you can quickly learn to beat them. You'll just need a lot of experience yourself, right? But the thing about techs, like little tricks that survivors, mostly survivors do to like try to bamboozle you, almost all of them have a very direct counterplay the moment you know what they are and how they work. So someone tries a CJ tech on you and you see it coming, get a free grab. Someone tries a dump tech on you, they don't do it well, get a free hit. Like, I think techs are great. They inspire survivors to take risks that otherwise they wouldn't take, and they are probably responsible for like half my wins, probably. So I love them.
I think they're fine, and it's also, again, as you said, they're just people having fun in the game. What's wrong with that? Although, also, when they don't work, they look really silly, and I mean, you have to point that out.
then again, you will see killers that, you know, will see one of these things being used against them, and then they'll camp or they'll hit you on hook. Like, they'll be very mad.
That's silly.
And I honestly think they really shouldn't. Like, I think, like, we agree it's good for the game.
Yes, but you made an interesting point.
Oh, what's
when
that?
you said you kind of made me think of perks like head-on under anti-fun perks, because I've seen people be camped and like bled out for things like that, which is very interesting to me.
Oh yeah, so we would call that
Anti-fun.
we would call that off meta altruism, maybe. Because sabotaging head-on, that's not really meta. Like, you don't go and lose to a tournament team with 4 head-ons. Like, that, they don't do that. Right?
Right.
But at the same time, in the right circumstances, one cheeky head-on, one cheeky sabotage, one cheeky flip-flop, like, that can be useful. And you're right, killers sometimes hate that stuff. They hate that stuff. They, like, I know many survivors that tell me, odds, I did this, you know, I had a sabo build and the killer just told me, you know, paragraph of insults. And it's really crazy because, like, these things are good for the game. Like, these are people that are purposefully avoiding the strongest things in the game.
Right.
To use these other gimmicky things that are way more likely to backfire than not. So, yeah, no, I would agree that, like, if that was an item in this list, I would definitely place it in good category. But
I would as well.
We have the opposite. We have the full meta. Now, this is a survivor item, but it doesn't really matter. Like, what we're talking here is someone that plays the sweatiest map offering on the sweatiest survivor friends with the sweatiest perks and the sweatiest items. Or alternatively, the sweatiest killer with the sweatiest add-ons with the sweaty, like, going 100% just the strongest things in the game. How do you feel about that?
Oh boy. Going full meta, I find it completely boring. I do. I don't think the person themselves is boring. I just think that seeing it too often because it's meta, that's what meta is, can be boring over time. And you've experienced that. We've talked about it where back then you would see a million decisive strikes. You're just like, man, I just want to see different things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Dead by Daylight has a lot of content and a lot of variety. But if you're seeing the same, like, 10 perks, it's just like, where's the other content? But
yeah,
going full meta in general, I think, is fine. You're just playing the game the way that you want to play it, and no one should insult you for that ever, in my opinion.
Right. I feel with full meta the same way I feel a bit with teabags. I think by themselves, it is a forgivable sin. Okay, you play the strongest killer. Sure. Okay, you know, you play with your friends, use the strong things. Sure. But the moment people do that, and on top of that, they BM, they are bad manner in other ways, I find it really insufferable. Like, I've seen lots of players, killer plays, that are super rude after playing the most busted things ever. Lots of survivors that have it super easy, they make it super easy for themselves, and then they say GG easy, which is like, yeah.
You would prefer that they be humble about it for just using the best things that they can.
I would say that if you go full meta, in the future, maybe that won't be so bad because the meta will be more balanced. The strongest killer maybe won't be that good compared to the average killer. Right now, I think going full meta is very cruel. Because if the other side is going full meta, fine. And if not, now they're going to want to do that next match. It just fits the cycle of like, okay, all right, stop playing nice, just play cutthroat, just do the dirtiest thing you possibly can. So I think it's not nice on that regard, and it's it's like the salt in the wound when on top of that person like does one of the other things we've explained, right? Imagine someone that uses full meta loadouts and then they use exploits and then they camp you and then they hard tunnel you. Like, it does feel bad, but I would say that by itself it's probably fine. What are your thoughts?
I would agree. I think it's totally fine. If people want to try super hard, then they bought the game, most likely, and they can play it exactly how they want, even if it's unfun sometimes, which I'm sure it is for many players, but that's just how it goes, you know?
All right. Talking about full meta, this is not exactly it, but how do we feel about the whole 4 slowdowns on killer? Having 4 perks, the express purpose of which, and typically good perks, is just to slow things down.
The most controversial thing ever, yeah. I think it's fine. Finally illegal. No, I think it's fine.
I agree. I do think I will say, as a survivor, it does feel pretty bad when your team is underperforming and one of your gens just gets hit by like 6 different perks at once. It feels bad. It feels really, really bad. But
despair.
Yeah, I know, right? Like 99, no. 99, no. You let go, miss a skill check.
Like, and they're only kicking your gen. They're not.
Yes, yeah. Like, but even though like all of your frustration is like emanating from this one generator, in reality, that's just a symptom of like a larger problem of, okay, your teammates are not playing well. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you're not splitting on gens. Like, it's not just that. So I would say 4 slowdowns for the most part are okay. I don't think there's anything like toxic about that. It just goes down to like, okay, 4 slowdowns on what killer? And then you just go full meta. And then, you know, on top of that, you can be a bit of an ass. Like it's we're going back to the previous debate. I think we agree. It's probably fine. There's nothing offensive.
At most, what I'd say is it can really delay the game for such a long time. And I could see why a lot of people do find it dull.
Oh yeah.
But as far as like attacking someone, again, that's just their style. Like you said, that's the same as the last topic. Mm-hmm. That's just what they prefer, right?
I suppose, yeah. And how do you feel about survivors that hide for longer than they need to, for extended periods of time? We're not talking like, oh, at the start of the game, I don't know if it's a stealth killer, but rather, yeah, I mean, the timer's going to be 4 minutes, so I'm just going to wait it out. I'm just going to wait by the hatch until the killer finds me. People that just prolong the game as long as they possibly can, sometimes for a long time.
Offensive or even bannable?
I would put it on similar weight as denying achievements in how evil and petty it is. But you're right. Yeah.
I would like to talk about pre-EGC then. If you recall,
yeah,
the game literally
like, hold up, like before you go on, what does pre-EGC mean? Because some people don't even realize that there was such a time in Dead by Daylight where there wasn't a timer at the end of the game.
Right. So in the simplest way, the in-game collapse, the EGC, is a timer at the end, which is 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes, and it slows down to half if there's a person on the ground on a hook or, you know, or being sacrificed.
The game did not have that back then, and if someone were petty enough, specifically a survivor, what they could do is hide in a corner of the map or in random lockers for, if they chose, maybe like 20 minutes. The game couldn't end because there was no in-game collapse timer back then. You just had to deal with it, and you couldn't close the hatch, right? I believe.
Hatch would only spawn if there was one person left, and you could close the hatch?
You could?
No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't close the hatch.
God, it's been so long.
You couldn't close the hatch. It did not exist. It did not. The animation to close the hatch did not exist. So they typically did this before hatch was...
Right.
Or when hatch... Yeah, there used to be a situation where you could be the last survivor and hatch wouldn't spawn because you didn't do enough gens. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That was exactly it. And that's how I experienced that the most back then.
Yeah.
I had
you overperform, right? You kill everyone. Last dude or two just hides forever.
I had a client literally hide for 20 minutes. Did nothing. Just hid.
That's terrible, dude. I hate it. And it also like holds everyone back. Like it is a bit sad. Would you say that should be downright bannable if exploited enough?
Yeah, honestly.
All right.
I feel like you're not playing the game. You don't want the game to end. I feel like it's holding the game hostage. Yeah.
Yeah. So next one, we have the full Bleedout treatment. Now, again, this is not, this is very much similar to the full face camp we said earlier. This is not a strategical Bleedout, like, oh my God, there's 5 seconds left, I'm just gonna wait, or oh my god, I don't have hooks, or oh my god, he has a perk and I can't pick him up. We're talking like you're on the ground, you have a few minutes left, the killer could easily kill you if they want to. There's basically zero or almost zero risk, but they don't do it because they want to punish you or just waste your time for the 4-minute bleed out timer. So just petty bleed out, which I think is going to be eventually addressed with the self pickup, right? How do you feel about this?
I think it's good, fine, not nice, offensive. And yeah, I would name all 4 of those. I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think it's really annoying. Actually, funnily enough, I played last night and I was bled out by a ghost face. He never hooked us and he just teabagged.
Did he tell you why, or could you ascertain why he did that?
No, I just left. You know me, I don't type out like angry essay like
no, I know, and it's best not to, because it's kind of what they're trying to get from you. So
exactly what they want from you.
Yeah, so that's good advice to anyone watching. Do not give a person like that salt. It's literally what they want. It fuels them. I would say this is more than not nice. Because the thing about camping, right, is that even though it's lame, blah, 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 it undeniably, at times, is the best strategy, or one of the best strategies. Like, it can really, really work. So it makes sense to do it. Whereas in this situation where we've established that you could hook them, and you don't, you just bleed them just because, I think that's just unbelievably petty. That's like...
It is.
Like, my time is not valuable enough. I prefer to just sit here doing nothing, or maybe even teabagging you for 3 minutes and a half, just to show you that I am better than you, you know? And many of the killers that do that will be the same killers that complain that survivors are the power role and that survivors are bullies. They're just trying to lash back at them. So while not bannable, because the game just allows it, I suppose, I would also put it on a similar level of pettiness to the denying achievements. Do we have an agreement there?
Yeah, you could have chosen any of the 4 and I would have been fine with it.
Okay. Well, fine. Now, one survivor has a bad start of the game. Maybe they got caught. Maybe they didn't get to use their deliverance. And they DC. What do you think should happen to that person? Again, we're not saying, oh my god, I need to go because my mom, fell in the shower and she needs my help. Like, we're talking, like, just purposeful, probably repeated, just leaving games when things don't go your way just because. Some people will say that this is just one of those rights that you have to, like, you can't force people to play the game, blah, blah, blah. Some people will say that the opposite, that you commit when you play a multiplayer game to try to be a team player. How do you feel about this?
I feel that disconnecting is fine for the player if they wish to do so. However, I think they're a terrible teammate depending on how they disconnect. If you disconnect from the game being held hostage by like a cheater or something like that.
Oh, obviously that's not what we're discussing here. That's fine. Like that cannot be helped. Like if your game crashes or something, obviously that's not it. So we're talking
if there's a survivor that disconnects because, oh no, I got hit by a hatchet across the map, I'm really mad. I've disconnected now. Good luck. Well, that's just selfish and stupid. Yeah. And I've done that myself plenty of times in the past, and I can easily admit that. Yeah.
I find it really sad. I see this happen. Like there's like moments where it happens more or less. But like what breaks my heart is sometimes queuing for a long time, waiting as a killer for minutes. You get into a game and
you get into a 3v1 pretty much.
Yeah, like I'm excited. I'm not like doing a challenge where I need to win super hard. I'm just being like, okay guys, let's check out this cool new perk. Oh my god, this add-on is awesome. Let me show you what it does. Like I'm excited to have a good game, right? Like I'm not going in to win it, because if you're going in to win it and you get a DC, that's literally a free win, right? If you're a sadist, you can just be like, well, I'm just going to torture the other 3 for the next 5 minutes. But like many times I want a fun game. First person I down, DCs for no reason, it just breaks my heart in half.
Right.
And forces everyone else to either DC or play out a boring game for 5 minutes. I think it's one of the worst crimes that you can do. I would, like, if it's repeated enough, I would probably put it in the bannable to some degree, like temporary bans or something, offense.
You know, I don't understand the people that disconnect so quickly. They just keep queuing up, waiting out their timers, playing over and over and over again. Just
well, the thing
play
the
a
thing
different
is,
game or something.
If the system is lenient, right? Like, imagine, let's say you play 10 matches a day. On your last match, since it's your last match of the day, if it's a nurse and you don't like nurse, you can just DC, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's only 1 out of 10 games, right? Right? So technically, it's not that big of a deal. But now imagine that 1 out of 10 of your teammates is doing that. Literally half your games would have a DC, you know what I mean? Pretty much, like, that's how it would
Sometimes
feel.
that
Like,
happens, yeah.
Yeah, you would never have a game. If everyone does that, like, it would be a disaster. So the people that DC, because they don't like something, they benefit from other people not doing that when they do like something. I think it's terrible. But an interesting debate is what happens when either the whole Survivor team DCs or the killer DCs. Because that's the end of the game. Like, if the killer loads in and they get stunned a couple of times and they go, you know what, I'm done, and they quit, do you think it's the same? Because I don't think it is. Even though it's not very sportsmanlike.
I would go back to your earlier point that let's say your queue and you're playing killer is like 10 minutes and you've waited 10 minutes to play against a team and they've all disconnected because you've hooked them too fast.
Yeah, or you were playing nurse and they didn't want a nurse, they wanted Bubba.
Right.
And they all DC at the start.
Yes.
Boom, like all together. That would bother me and it would break my heart, but at least it wouldn't put me in a situation where, you know, now I have to play a 5-minute game and I need to farm with the other guys or something. Because at least the game ends, right? And we move on to the next one, as unfortunate as that is. So I would maybe put this in the either offensive or not nice.
I would go not nice, but also I would go with good at the same time because I love when killers disconnect over silly things. I think it's hilarious.
Okay, undeniably, it does provide some funny moments, but I mean, if we're not looking at it in the context of content creation, I think we can say it's not nice. Does that feel okay? All right. So, are there any other things we forgot to mention?
No, I think we're good. Actually, this list feels small. I feel like we just tackled it so fast.
Really? Oh, we've been at it for an hour. Damn, it went by fast.
Yeah.
Well, looks like you and I are meant to talk about horrible things, Cope.
I would love to.
I hope we get to do that in the future, in the very nearby future. At any rate, if you've been listening to all of this, thank you so much. You know where you can find me. But if you're not acquainted with him yet, please check out Cope. He streams on Twitch 5 times a day. He has a YouTube channel as well with some hilarious games. He's a very, very
5 times a day.
I'm talking you up a little bit, you know, I'm rounding up. But no, do check out his content. He is endlessly entertaining and very effortlessly instructive. You will learn a lot by just watching him. And I learned a lot by just sitting here and chatting with him. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.